Here's some more on progressivism, folks. You can tell I really enjoy this topic, and I'm going to expand on it some more. The middle class was a key factor in the progressive age. And what exactly made the lure of efficiency and progress so seductive? Well, eerily similar to the economic turbulence which reached its peak in 2008, there had been a huge depression in the early 1890s. In human nature, people tried to determine why. Once you know why, you can do something to keep it from happening again. Reform leagues and debating societies, university extension centers, church groups, and even farmers' institutes all tried to answer this question. And while they didn't provide any specific answers, the various social justice agencies at work during this time, people campaigning for an 8-hour work week, women's suffrage, trust busting, which is always popular, transparency in government, control of the railroads, and more, were finally able to combine their efforts into a spirit of reform and collectively mobilize vast resources, really vast resources. A new sense of civic consciousness arose, bringing with it a concern for the country's situation, which every man, woman, and child held. Okay? An educated middle class was appearing. Young leaders such as Theodore Roosevelt and, yes, even William Randolph Hearst, trained and hungry for power, were taking their position at the forefront of society. And leading the reform campaign, which equally young but less prominent individuals like Jane Addams, the scholastic incarnation of Woodrow Wilson, the bane of Standard Oil, Ida Tarbell, and the legalistically brilliant Louis Brandeis all shared, all participated in. Even such personages as this could not effect change when there was no will. Even persons such as Teddy Roosevelt, William Hearst, and later Woodrow Wilson could not force change upon people. But fortunately for posterity, a wave of college-trained professionals, the new middle class, brimming over with the spirit of reform, appeared. These bankers, lawyers, economists, and corporate executives believed in organization, efficiency, time and motion studies, effective management, and planning, feeling that such a scientific approach equipped them handsomely to undertake even the largest of tasks. And they'd have to feel that way, for the spectacle of the task confronting them was appalling. Corruption and inefficiency were rampant, fed by waves of job-hungry poor who were willing to sell their political influence in exchange for the comforts offered by the ward bosses and similar glad-handers, the old guard. In the North and West, where the Republican Party had essentially been entrenched since the Civil War, this corruption was especially visible and especially bad. In these areas, the legislative support of business interests was automatic, elected over and over again with corporate, not voter, support. These masked Republican, big R Republican, office holders were full of voluble praise for the same capitalists and free enterprise agents that had produced the recession only a few short years before. Okay, this is a key distinction. The progressive era is characterized by the sensation of a republic or Republican feeling, small r Republican. Okay. Big R Republicans, the party that had won the Civil War, yes, won the Civil War, but in power ever since, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, they were two different things. One was a feeling about the country, and one was a feeling of, let's make ourselves better. One was a party of self-interests. And you can argue that the Republican Party might still be that today. That's a matter for another day, and other people too. The power of the wealthy was stunning. Among other things, they refused to pay local taxes and made it impossible for assessors of any kind, be they tax, safety, or anything else, to examine their holdings. They forced through reduced tax rates as well, even though they had no intention of paying them. Now, if a government has tax money, it can do things. Without tax money, it can't accomplish anything. And that's exactly the situation which existed at these times, in the very closing days of the 19th century. Many super corporations which still haunt our world today arose as financiers such as J. Pierpont Morgan, to name but one person, swept in and bought up destitute firms in the wake of the Depression. If there wasn't being run profitably, Pierpont and his people could, and they could combine everything in a profitable way. Between 1897 and 1904, fully 40% of the economic activity of the United States came under the control of these combines, as their number proliferated from a mere 12 in 1897 to 300 in 1904. 300. 2% of the population controlled 60% of the nation's money, an echo 100 years ago of the 1% which we groan under today. So you see, all history is a wheel. What was shall be again, what is shall be no more. And the same forces which drove the progressive age can drive things today.